To me, we are the most beautiful creatures in the whole world, black people. I mean that in every sense, outside and inside. And to me, we have a culture that is surpassed by no other civilization, but we don't know anything about it. To get more aware of themselves and where they came from and what they are into and what is already there, and just to bring it out.
All right, good evening, everybody. This is your girl, Sam Walks from the Pull Up Experience, and we're here to talk about some culture, right?
Yes.
It is almost June, which means we are celebrating everything Black for the month of June. Mm-hmm. And I have here with me this beautiful young lady who is doing some amazing things for the culture. So please introduce yourself to our audience and who you are.
So my name is Leticia Wilson Stone. I am the creator of ASE Theater Project. ASE Theater Project is a community theater program that's really about restoring community bonds, family stories, and positive self-images within the Black culture.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this question, because you can't just jump into an interview without really figuring out where we starting at with this conversation. Mm-hmm. So how are you mentally feeling today? And be honest, because listeners and viewers need to understand that everything is not always perfect. Things happen. Right, we're human. Right. So can you just tell me a little bit about how you're feeling today, what you're experiencing in this moment?
So there's a lot of joy because it was the last day of school. So I'm a full-time educator. So we just ended the school year. I'm also a mom of 3. So I have an 18-year-old, 8-year-old, and 16 months. And I am also in the midst of doing the biggest theater project of my artistic creative career, thanks to the Transformative Arts Fund. And it's chaotic. It's a lot. I'm tired a lot. Mm-hmm. But also, luckily, like, I'm always around really good people, so it always refill me up. Mm-hmm. But yeah, rest is a must, and that's the constant reminder.
Do you constantly have to struggle with that, like telling yourself to wind down, telling yourself to close the laptop? Is that a thing?
Yes. So that is the thing. Because when I am with my family, I try to really focus on being with my family. And then it's like, now I have these extra rehearsals. And then it's like, if our school is doing productions and shows, and I try to be as close to 100% present wherever I am and what I'm doing. Yeah. And sometimes it is that mom guilt of like, dang, I done poured out into everybody in the universe, and I'm coming home and I'm tired, so I got to give you my last. Yeah. And yeah, but then trying to remember, like, it's okay sometimes to just be a little bit selfish and say no and call off. Yeah. Because one thing, I'm going to get there when I get there.
Listen, I'm so glad that you said that, because I want to say over the past year, you've started seeing this transformation. Mm-hmm. Black women are not working ourselves into the ground. Like, we're taking our mental health days. So I'm so glad that you said that, because especially being in a creative space, people that are not creatives don't understand how draining that can be. Right. So tell me a little bit about your journey in theater, how it all started.
That's so first church, honestly. So the whole thing, you know, the church plays, Easter Sunday.
Did you do a speech?
I did do the speech.
Okay.
And I was the angel, Joseph, thou son of David. Other words. But and then I also went to Cleveland School of the Arts, so a proud alumni of Cleveland School of the Arts. Went there from 6th to 12th grade. That's where I got a lot of my mentorship, where I grew a lot. It's also where I had a very huge reckoning of trying to realize what I want to do after school. My senior year, I got pregnant with my oldest, and I still wanted to do theater. And, you know, at the school, that's cool to talk about, but like my family looking at me like, girl, you got a kid. And it ain't no money in being an artist is what people assume. But I also have been very fortunate that from the time that I left the school, I have always done theater. My entire adult life, I have never not been inside of a theater house, or whether it's Karamu House, Cleveland Public Theater, Cleveland Playhouse Square. I have worked at all those places. Taught at Cleveland School of the Arts too for 8 years. And then now having my own theater program and theater company that is now growing and building. So it's just been a journey of falling in love with seeing stories come to life. I always was a book nerd. Like, I love being at the library. We grew up down the way. So I'm from Ward 5.
Okay.
So we grew up like in King Kennedy's and the Greens, and then they tore that down. Then we was in Delaney. And then my mom was really big on like, we're going to do more, we're going to get more.
Yeah.
So then we became like the Box family. Like every year we in a different, mommy got a good job, we here.
Yeah.
Things changed, we here. So I would get lost in books. I was quiet. My brother was a sports person and bad, and my sister was also bad. So I just kind of was the good one and under the radar most of the time. And then when I started seeing people take stories and put it in their body and taking like from the pages of a script and seeing different shows, different ways, that's when I was like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. And it felt therapeutic in a lot of ways. I didn't have a language for that back then, but just like feeling like, okay, if I know what sadness feels like, I can actually utilize it for something versus just sitting in it all the time. You know what I mean?
Good.
Yeah.
So what was your first experience with theater?
Ooh. So I say the
I'm
real
getting in your
good one.
business.
Yes, the real good one. So Mr. Hickson, R.I.P. to Mr. Hickson and to Dr. Miller, because both of those were my two first drama teachers. Okay. So Mr. Hickson was like a very dynamic man, like the dreads, turban, hands, body, we gonna take up space. And he taught us James Weldon Johnson, The Creation. And it's actually like, there's little nuggets all throughout Portals of Knowing that's also showing things of my story towards theater and just like books and stories and things like that. So we were learning The Creation, and the first few stanzas says, God stepped out in space and he looked around and he said, I'm lonely, I'll make me a world. And having to kind of think about the fact of like God experiencing loneliness, and then God created this world so that loneliness couldn't really exist. And we were like in 7th grade.
That's really profound.
It is, yes. And like, and then having to try to be like, what do loneliness feel like? What do it look like? What do it feel like when you think you got it? And then the poem continues and like God making all this stuff, the birds, the this, the da, 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 da. And then that line repeats, like, and God said, I'm lonely still. And then God finally created man. And then that's when it ends. And so Mr. Hickson was really big on us being who we are as individuals, and also like us being Black children and knowing that our Blackness is not always about trauma and sadness, but how it can be, it's dynamic. Like our existence as beings is dynamic. So having that, learning Harlem Sweeties by Langston Hughes, which is like celebrating all the complexions of women and how we look, and we, again, are like 11, 12-year-olds, like, taking this on. And so continuing on, I have done, like, in adulthood, one of my favorite shows that I did was Dominique Morisseau's Paradise Blue. So that play really was about, like, things with domestic violence and Black men, Black women, generational trauma, all these different things. And the character was very complicated. The guy that she was with was very complicated. And being able to kind of embody that story helped me with healing with certain things, because there were certain scenarios and situations that I also experienced that was able to kind of like have a place to live on the stage, and then being able to leave it there and walking away from it. And also being able to kind of play out different ways that things can go, but always knowing that there's a separation, because people do kind of be losing their mind with acting. Like, because you do have certain schools of acting where it's like, oh, be, and you gotta like
it consumes a lot of people.
Yes.
You know, I'm trying to think of what movie. It's a couple movies that I've watched, and I just wonder, like, how did this person literally become that person? And I'm thinking about Andra Day when she did Billie Holiday. And she talked about how mentally she had checked out of herself and became Billie. And she talked about trauma, like secondhand trauma that she experienced. And so just hearing you say that just makes me think and understand the importance of actors and actresses and how they have to become something bigger than themselves to portray an actor. Like, it's really amazing.
Yeah. And what we try to do with ASE Theater Project, we focus on Black acting methods. So that's it's a lot of different methods of Black acting. There's a lot of different people who are doing it, but it's not necessarily discussed or talked about a lot, especially in the theater world, because with American theater, the history of it is really in making fun of Black folks. So like musical theater came from like minstrels and just like dressing up and pretending to be like us. But Black acting methods is really rooted into the call and response that you see like in churches and just how we normally is. So I'm like, hey, everybody know what to do with that. Like, oh, okay, we know where we at.
So if I say I go.
I may.
Okay.
Right. So, and then there's a thing of like staying rooted in who you are, even though you're taking on other things, but it is really important to know and be grounded in your center self and your core. And so through a lot of the work, we're restoring that connection and that awareness of like, what is happening in my body? How do I hold my body? And then how can I take on other things and making sure that it's not feeling like it's me so that I don't get consumed. Because it's always grief after a show too. So like I'm already like trying to prepare myself that I know after portals close, it's going to be a grieving process because it's theater. Once it's gone, it's gone. In preparation of portals, like it's all this excitement leading up to it, and I'm preparing myself for the grieving process that comes after a show ends, especially a show this connected to who I am as a person as well. The ensemble of people that I've been working with since October. So, and then, you know, we're going to all be connected, but not in this same way, and like how much dedicated time we have together. So it is like you lose relationships, and it's, doing shows, it does a lot to you psychologically in different ways. You get closer to people. That's why people pop up with different relationships. Everybody always dating somebody after they do a show. What you trying to say? Well, it ain't nobody to date. Okay. But it's just, it's a lot of things. But after shows, there is a lot of times where we as actors and performers, you have a little bit of grief because it's like, dang, I did all of that and now it's gone. And then it's like, what's the next thing? Yeah. And do we have the funding and the resources for the next thing? Because this is also like a huge amount of resources that we have this time. And so that's also a big responsibility to me of making sure that we're doing everything like up to par and including as many people as possible along the journey so that it's this big community moment for all of us.
Okay. So let's dive into this immersive play. Yes. Like, because I keep seeing the word immersive. Yes. So can you explain and expound a little bit about what immersive theater is? Okay. So it's a lot of different ways of people doing immersive. So it's some people who do immersive where like you are blindfolded and it's just you're listening. Okay. It's immersive where a lot of people, when I first said we were doing immersive, they're like, oh, like the Van Gogh experience and just big projections. So this experience, the way that we are doing immersive is that the audience has a role in the play. Okay. So as soon as you come in, you are told how you are the cousins. So you're one of the cousins and you're about to go to your cousin's house. So we get to play outside for a little bit. You know, it's summertime. It's happening in July. So summertime, we outside hanging out. And then once the audience is onboarded, we have a whole section of the first floor of East Tech High School that we are converting into an apartment, a basketball court, a street, and more. Wow. So when you go through, there's going to be a lot of family portraits. Those are portraits that we have taken of people throughout the community. So it's like also reflecting like this is all the family, this is the family history, the family legacy. When the show closes, everybody is getting those portraits and they're the frames and stuff. We're making sure that we're being able to give people family heirlooms that they can hold on and pass down for generations. Then it's a lot of like freestyling, it's some moving, it's some singing, it's remembering little like childhood games. And then once you get into the house, you're with the little cousins for a little bit, and then Auntie Renee, the mama, come in, and she mad because nobody cleaned up her house. Did they take the chicken out the freezer?
No, they ain't get nothing. So she going off. She's gone off, and this was interesting even with how we made that monologue. So all of the things in the play too came from us doing our ASE sessions.
Okay.
So every third Tuesday we get together with community people and we like telling stories and talking. And even with the idea of the audience being cousins was because we had a big conversation on how people don't spend a night at each other's houses anymore. Like the older generation, we were talking about how we all hung out and we would be outside and this, and all of the kids was like, I could never.
It's so different.
Yes.
And they can't even imagine having that type of bond. Because I see memes and stuff, and it's like, we don't have this anymore. When you got 10 cousins, 2 on the couch, the floor, granny in there making breakfast. So it's like, you guys are really bringing that to life. And it's so amazing to have that exposure to this generation because, you know, they're the future. They can recreate this. So I'm glad that this is going to give them a chance to see like what it was like when things were this way.
Right.
So I love that so much. I'm excited and I just want to come see it like right now. So talk to me a little bit about the process, the writing process, because I know everything that you're creating is very intentional. I just from this conversation, I can tell everything is detailed, well thought out. So like, what is your writing process like?
For me, I'm what you'll call a devised theater artist. So that means when basically my brain is always listening for something, listening for a topic, listening for things that connect, and remembering from like 2 weeks ago, oh, somebody said this, and how does this, and So ultimately, one of the main through lines of the piece is that as you're going through this, you're also going to be hearing your ancestors' stories and how those stories is like the rage mom is having about her house being clean comes from all these different scenarios before her. The fact that the son is always outside, because that was one thing when we kept having conversations with a lot of the men in the community, they always talk about how they was never in the house. So they're like, I was gone. Nobody knew. And it's also kind of like 2 different worlds that's happening. So like everything that happens with the son, he's taking the trash out, because that's also the typical thing boys got to do. You take the trash out. So he's taking the trash out, but then he has the whole reckoning outside at the basketball court, while the sisters is having a reckoning inside of the bathroom, looking at themselves and like getting their edges together. So it's different things that's happening, and all of that is really from listening to the different stories and finding the similar through lines. So with this taking place in Cleveland, none of us is from Cleveland. All of our people then migrated up here from somewhere else. And anybody who people came up here to Cleveland, they had a hope like, oh, things about to be better. I'm not about to let these white folks do me like this. I'm not about to be working for pennies. I have these big dreams and aspirations. And Cleveland originally didn't have Jim Crow laws or anything like that. But then when it started being all these black people coming, then it's like, oh no, we don't want y'all. And then you got redlining that starts taking place. And all these systematic things start hindering us. And even when you talk to artists and people in Cleveland, there is a lot of mentality that's still connected to that heartache of like, I had this dream and this aspiration, but somebody betrayed me, or something didn't pan out, or I didn't get it how I wanted to get it. And I have to only protect mine and only care for mine, because there's like the sense of community is shrinking more and more and more. And we're getting more into the individualism, but that's really not us as a people.
It's not, because I'm like, we grew up in the same era, so we had the village. The neighbor was allowed to come over and pop you if you were doing something that you weren't supposed to be doing. And now it's kind of like, I'm not getting involved, you know, that type of thing. And I'm like, that is missing. That key component of having a village. So while we're on the topic of village, who was your village growing up? And how did that impact you long term?
I mean, I had a very diverse village, and I was very fortunate in that the librarians was my village. People at church there were definitely people in the neighborhood, and especially when we were down in the projects, like I felt like that's when I was watched the most. When we moved out into other neighborhoods, I felt more like I was on my own. And like when we started writing this piece, I was reflecting back on that a lot. I'm like, that is interesting. Like when we was technically like doing better, quote unquote, it was when we were getting more and more disconnected from the people around us. And now it's also so much fear, because it is like, you know, everybody is not the same. Everybody is like overly protective and overly fearful, and is making everything super territorial. So my village was definitely having great friends, and they had parents too that was like, well, if you coming over here, I need to know who you is, who your mama is, where y'all at, what's her number, what's all this
You can't
stuff.
even come over here until I had a conversation with your mama.
Yep. And I still do the same thing with my daughter, but it's also like, some people is like, what, how, like, who does this still? But it's important, and it is necessary. And like, I know I wouldn't have been able to even raise my daughter without having the village that I had, because all those people who helped me ended up also helping me with her, and so on and so forth. And even with the community work that I have done and being an educator in theater for 17 years now, I pour into my students, but also their parents have poured into my kids. And it's a thing of understanding, like, it's not every day as a parent is not a good day. Every day as a kid is not a good day. And if we both having an off day at the same time, that's when having other people and other aunties, the uncles, you know, other places to go, that's important. And we're hoping with this performance and having people come in and being the cousins, that they start seeing like, oh, I do have a role in what's happening in this household, just by listening, by showing up, by pouring in, by giving some type of affirmation, some advice, by sharing a short story of something that I experienced, that can then open up the door for understanding for the next person.
Girl, I wish I had my microphone. I'll just drop it right there, because just thinking about growing up, and I talked to my best friend the other day, and we was like, remember, like, if my mom picked me up, she picked you up too, and it's now everybody is literally kind of like, but I think stuff was devised that way. To separate us, and everybody's kind of on their own island. So how do you think that this project, your company, your baby, is going to bring about change in our community here in Cleveland?
So, and I hate to say it, but it is like the first step is the fact of just having the conversation. And I am hoping that when people leave, they find a friend. Because it is going to be a lot of stuff where you're going to be forced to talk to people you don't know. You're going to be separated. You ain't going to be able to stick with your buddy. And it's very intentional of like, make sure you interact. It's going to be very intentional about like, if I'm not somebody that's big and bold and want to be in the middle, like, am I going to be overwhelmed? Like, no, we are also working and training and making sure that we are taking care of everybody from the introvert to the extrovert. Because before we were preparing, we did a lot of research. So we went to New York, and I was able to take like a group of people out to New York, and we experienced an immersive experience there. We went to Chicago and did the same. And it can turn into like a social experiment. The one in New York was real. It was a lot, but I mean, it's New York too, because it was like nudity and people walking around.
Is there any
running.
nudity in the?
No.
Okay.
But
I
it is
just wanted to
cussing.
make.
It is cussing. Because I even be warning. Because it's natural speech. So the way you hear people talk, your cousin, your auntie, your uncle, that's how they're going to be talking. And we do have kids in the show. Okay. So the parents and stuff all been at the thing. And everybody's like, this feels very genuine in how things are. And that's what we wanted to do. So it is an intergenerational thing, which is also cool to have like younger kids working with adults, working with older people. And also just doing things, leading things out in the community too.
Yeah, and speaking of all the different generations and age groups and demographics, like just looking at some of the things on social media, like I told you earlier, like I don't want to have this conversation right now because it's just so full. And I love seeing all those different age groups together. So tell me a little bit about what that experience has been like, especially for the younger generation, to be in those spaces and hearing those stories from the older generations. I wish I could have been there, but
it gets interesting, especially because like some of our kids, they haven't been in those spaces. So, you know, older people are old school about certain stuff, like how a kid talk, when a kid's supposed to speak, when a kid's not supposed to talk. So it's things that sometimes when they getting excited, so they're also like learning each other. Like the older people are learning like, oh, this isn't necessarily rude. This is excitement. I shouldn't get like, I don't have to be so particular about this. or for the kids to also know, like, how do I engage? Because their social skills is very different now too, because there's so much of being on the phone.
Yeah.
And I am very big on trying to get them off of their phones once we really get into our core, especially throughout June. It's like no phones during
I was going to ask that,
Yeah,
like, because I'm like, in order to really be immersed in that experience, like, you have to be there and be present. And I'm like, I'm thinking long term, like when those kids are in their 30s and 40s, they're going to remember that. They're going to remember this whole experience. So I'm just so glad that you brought together all different walks of life. I think that's going to be so dope to see on stage.
And I think one of the joys of like theater and anything with performing arts, you are able to really create core memories for people. So like in doing this work for so long, I'm also attached to a lot of people's core memories because they're like, oh, I remember when I played this thing and when I got on stage or when I got my costume. And it's just something that lives in you. And then it ends up coming out in a lot of different ways. Like a lot of students who I've worked with in the past too, like they're performing or they're just like great people out in the world and they're doing great things in their fields, but it's like they work in places to be able to get their confidence up, to feel like I have purpose when I come into a room. I know how to speak loud and clear. I know how to work as a team too, because I have gone through a thing where like we all are dependent on each other when we're making a production. And all of those skills are important. And it's a good reminder too, as adults, to remember how much we lean on each other and how important it is to also be transparent about where we are. Because I really do appreciate the check-in at the beginning. We do check-ins before rehearsals and at the end of rehearsals, before production meetings, and just really understanding, because life be lifing. And so like when we understand, then it's like, okay, how can I help you and support you so that nobody is burnt out? Like that's one of my number one goals too of this, is making sure that the people who have been working on this for a long time don't get to the point of burnout, so that we still are enjoying the work and enjoying the process, even though we're still working hard.
Because I was definitely going to ask, like, how do you soak up those moments and really enjoy it when you're like, go, go, go? Like, do you ever just take a minute, sit back and watch rehearsal and kind of just reflect, take a moment to decompress? Like, what is that process like for you, so that you can say, wow, like, this is really happening? Like, do you take those moments?
Yeah, so we have a closing out that we do where at the end, we always do we got a "To Be Black" chant that we do a little vibe. And then it's just like taking some breaths in, and we look around the room, we look around the circle, and everybody just say a word of what they feel like they're taking with them when they leave. And then also at the beginning of the day, we always say a word or a phrase of just like what we are bringing into the space, and also what our capacity level is. Because sometimes it is like if everybody had work and all this stuff, it's like what level are we energetically? And then we'll still have the goals of everything, but I try to curate it in honor of like where everybody is. And then based off of who says they have the most energy, it's like, can we then lean on you a little bit today? Because if this person can't, like, what is going to feel fair for everybody? And we always eat good. I'm big on feeding everybody.
I know that's right. Because it is not a family function unless we are eating some good food.
So we make sure we eat. And then just breaking bread with people, and talking in that way like that. It's all these things of just like, what are those like, those comforts that just come up automatically. And then we just genuinely talk with each other, especially like once everything is over. It's a thing of having those genuine conversations, and sometimes uncomfortable conversations, like when certain stuff needs to be done. But like when you family, you got to have all of those. And we really treat everything like a family. We all are family.
Yeah. As it should be, because it's something very family-ish when you're doing a production. I was a drama club kid too. I still remember lines from a play I did in 6th grade.
What was the play?
Mufaro's Beautiful Daughters.
Okay. Oh, okay.
You know that?
Yes, I know that.
I was the evil sister, but like to this day, I remember the teacher. I remember my parts, what I had. I can remember all of it. And I don't know what it is, so maybe you can kind of shine a light on, for those who are creators, who are involved in theater, like what is it that just unlocks those core things that you just can't shake it? Like, it's been 30 years and I still can go back to that moment.
Yeah. To me, because even like the whole creative process is not just a mental thing, it's a very spiritual thing for me as well. And when you think about it, it's you being vulnerable in front of all of these people, and all of these people are taking you in and receiving it as well. And then like when you leave off, everybody is also saying something about what they saw in you. And it's like an extended version of, we do a lot of the games like Fly Girls, what you say. My name is Leticia and I'm a fly girl and all of that, you know.
Boys can rock my world.
Right.
Fly like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
But like when everybody around you and they pumping you up and you getting that feeling, but like theater like slows that feeling down, and it's like people are watching you go through all these different emotions and all these different things, and so it's like it's this ultimate day of exposure, and I feel like it's something that you can't shake after you do that. So it does like sink real deep into your core, and then especially when you're somebody that is also a part of what your calling is going to be, hence even how you're here and hosting and, you know, doing all of the things that you do and Miss Model and all of the things. Like you have that background because that's where it started, and that was like that first taste and buzz of it. And once you kind of get exposed to it, it's like you can't really
It's so hard to just be like, okay, I'm not going to be myself. I'm going to be really cool and chill. And then like the theater kid in me jumps out. So thank you for saying that because it happens. So your work is centered around the Black experience. So as a Black woman, like we've talked about our mental wellness, and can you talk about, is there some joy in this projection? Because we talk a lot about our trauma, you know, mental health, but is there going to be some Black joy?
Yes, it's going to be a lot of it. Okay. We were very intentional with how to deal with that, because the thing is, the community that we're in, being in Cleveland, at the very beginning of the piece, we do ancestral veneration. So it's doing the libation ceremony, and that's just being able to say the name of an ancestor that you love, somebody that was caring, that you are constantly thinking of, that's still connected to you. In Cleveland, we all have experienced some kind of loss, and a lot of people have lost somebody early. When we are talking in the community, even sometimes, like even the video that you see, one of the things that was kind of crazy when we were done with that day, because that day was so fulfilling. Like it was everybody, oh girl, you fly, hey, and we doing all this celebration, and then people were talking about like funerals that they were going to, and like this person that happened in this. So throughout the piece, there are soundscapes. So it's like you are gonna constantly hear the community talking. Like gently, like, oh, I'm hearing different people like in other apartment buildings, or like I'm hearing people in the neighborhood speaking. But all of that is happening around, but the whole point of it even going into the house is because we work hard, especially like me as a Black mother, I work so hard to make sure that the outside noise stay outside.
Ooh.
So all of that stuff has to be outside. And having that feeling, that's the thing of, what the mother is also battling of, even what is she bringing into the house from her day? What has the kids brought into the house? So the cleanup is not just about the house being clean, but it's also like a mental cleaning. What are the things that I attached to today that I need to let go of because it's no longer serving us? And one of the things that we talked about a lot is just how much, as Black folks, we got a lot of fight in us.
Yeah.
And then it's, when do I not need to fight though? Like when can I?
The fight or flight. Like when can I just be?
And
please tell me we're gonna see some of that.
So it actually, that's when the audience is gonna be able to do their own work.
Okay.
Oh. Okay. So the audience will be able to do their own work on that. So once we get to a certain point, the production does shift, so that there's opportunity for self-reflection and even like journaling and like meditation. And we are using projections. It's gonna be like a beautiful scape of Black joy and happiness and all the things. And it's like, how do I get that lightness in myself? But for people to really think about that and explore that for themselves on an individual level. to just open up and welcome the fact of like, you need to do things for you in order to be able to do anything for anybody else.
Yeah. And it's not selfish.
Right. No, not at all. Not at all. So we're definitely not trying to re-traumatize in any way. There are in any moment that may even have a possibilities. There's breath work that we do between each scene. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know how much I want to keep on
Look,
saying.
I'm like, at this point, look, I've invested.
Yes.
Like, I'm just.
I just say the street lights are very important.
Okay.
Street lights is a big thing and a big cue for all of us throughout the piece. Because when the street lights come on, where are you supposed to go?
In the house.
Yes.
Not on the porch.
Yes.
Not across the street.
Yes. Oh my God.
In the house.
So funny story, because we was at CMHA Outhwaite and we said like, oh, where you go when the street lights come on? So one girl was real loud. She's like, on the porch.
In the house with the door locked behind you. That's it.
And literally like 30 minutes after we were done and we was like doing something else, the CEO of CMHA got on the mic and he was like, who said get on the porch? You know you was bad and you was in trouble because you was supposed to be in the house, not on the porch. And it became this whole thing. And it just like, it's just beautiful of like Black culture. Like we have so much culture that we don't always identify or value it as culture, especially within our kids, because the kids are kind of losing a lot of stuff because they're like, it's like, I don't know, that's just like what my mom said, or that's just this and that. And it's like, no, it's actually like a part of the bigness of our community as a whole.
Listen, as soon as you said streetlights, I started sweating a little bit because I'm like, I used to be running home trying to get home before those lights. So tell us a little bit about some of the other plays that you've written and are there similarities or differences between those and the Portals of Knowing?
Most of my plays always revolve around ancestral memory in some kind of way. The last piece that we did was Spoken Over Me, which was really a ceremony where the kids that I work with, the teenagers, they all explored their names, what their names meant, and we had like different folk tales around different names. And at the end of the piece, they ended up doing a naming ceremony where they brought their parents up and they gave their parents a name. So it's like the parent named them out of like a hope, idea, a wish before they was in existence. And then the kid is looking at the parent like, I have seen you and I have watched you and this is the name that I want to give you. So it was beautiful. It was very beautiful.
Because I'm
like, we're going to have to do it again.
Like, I'm like, can I come? Because I want to do my name over.
Because it's stuff I want to keep revisiting. I'm really hoping for work. Like, I want my work to be something that is never the same thing. Like, I don't want the show to be the same thing every night. Even in how we rehearse it, it's like, how are you feeling? Bring that into each moment. And also taking in the people in the room and how they're feeling so that they're actually seeing a reflection of themselves in some kind of way. And I'm just big on interaction. And then another play, after I had my son, I was postpartum. I had severe postpartum. And the way that one even came up, I was having so many thoughts and I called one of my really good friends and I was like, can you just like come over? Like I have all these ideas and it's like stuff that I'm thinking and I'm scared to tell anybody what the heck my mind is doing right now. So she came and like we started like just like devising, which is just making stuff and doing stuff and like improvising. And so that ended up being the very first production that I had go up into a workshop with a festival, and it was at Cleveland Public Theater. And that kind of like pushed a lot of things. I ended up being able to get a grant with the Cleveland Foundation and Birth and Beautiful Communities, and did another project called Her Journey of Healing, which also centered mothers, unhealed mothers, and like the emotional wounds we can pass down sometimes. So a lot of times all of my work is all about trying to find emotional freedom and then honoring the fact of like there are stories that came before us that matters, that's actually impacting our current story. And if we don't know that, it kind of leaves us unguided in a lot of ways. So genealogy is really important to me. So like all of my work somehow highlights and goes back into genealogy in some kind of way.
I mean, that's how you honor your ancestors. Mm-hmm. You have to honor your past and where you came from. So I'm so glad that that's all incorporated. Because I'm like, you see me, I'm over here like, I'm like, ooh, I need to do my ancestry. I need to find out where I'm from, who my people are. So.
And we are working with the Cleveland Public Library.
Wow, we getting free DNA and me.
So the library is going to do scan days, and we're going to go, so after portals, so portals is like an invitation. Even when we're working on it, I call the script an invitation.
Okay.
The invitation is for people to then start going on to their journey of like their own family histories. So the Cleveland Public Library will be there at the shows, like giving some information, but then we're going to do a series where one of them is like a community scan day. So that means you can like bring your picture, scan it, and it'll be into the Cleveland archives for genealogy research. So like years down the line, if anybody is researching your family, it's pictures, it's stories, you can put all of that stuff in. So they'll be doing workshops on that. And we're gonna do workshops on figuring out where did you come from before Cleveland? Where's the family story? Because I didn't know that all of my grandparents was deceased by the time I was 19. So by the time I was like 25, 26, I was like, where? Because my dad's side of the family, they keep up with everything. Like I know where they from in Carolina. They have family reunions. My mom's side didn't. And then found out so much stuff. Then found out, oh, we from Tennessee, and oh, this and that. And it ended up informing a lot of different things. And in all honesty, getting engaged made me really want to research, because I don't have anybody that was married in my family or that was successfully married.
I was gonna say, you better come on, breaking them generational curses.
But then the depth of what that generational curse was, I started researching on my mom's side and my dad's side, like, okay, where's the marriage paper? Like, up until 1865, I just kept finding, like, gross neglect, abuse, and that's why the divorces was happening, or different things of all these, like, traumatic stories, and there was no marriage that had sustained in any of my grandparents
for generations.
Yeah, going back, I was not able to find anybody that, like, was married and stayed married. So then it was like, then I was like, I have to do a lot of work before we actually do this, because it's a lot of stuff that's different in just like mentality, things that you get taught. Because I was very much taught to do everything myself. I can fix the car, I can fix stuff around the house. I know how to get stuff done and figure stuff out. And I feel like my mother was really adamant in making sure that I knew how to take care of myself fully, because she had to do everything herself. And I mean, that's a lot of our stories too, of like you being raised and taught and drilled to be able to survive and be and function alone, that we are not really always trained on how do I interact with others and build with others and figure stuff out with others.
Look, because I definitely was gonna ask, like, with the work that you do, with having a fiance, how do you balance that hyper independence that we are taught from such a young age, especially if you have or you still working on finding that balance, because it's hard. It's hard.
And it's actually it's one of the elements within portals, because it is a dynamic of things that men aren't taught just as much as things that women aren't taught. And so then when none of us is perfect. So when you come together as two imperfect people. And so it's been things that have been challenges, but I'm also I have to talk it out. I have to like get it out. That's why I'll put it in a play. That's why I be telling people, be careful what you do to me, because it's going to be on the stage somewhere. It's going to get exposed in some kind of way. But yeah, like it is stuff of it's different challenges, but then that's also when you got to lean on community again. Because like, how am I going to know if I'm never opening up my perception beyond myself?
Yeah. I had to take a breath on that one.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just so many great things coming. So what is your hope, especially for the young people that are participating in this? I can't even call it a play or production. It's an experience. Yes. So what is your hope for the younger generation that are participating?
So my hope is, one, for them to feel seen and validated, especially with the teens and the kids that's represented in the show itself. Like, I know a lot centers around the mom, but it's like their stories matter, and just how much sometimes they are more aware than the mother of certain things because they're able to sit back and see. So I do hope that it makes them feel like they do have a very crucial and important role in their family just as much as they do in the community. But if we first don't understand our role in our family system, it's going to be hard for us to understand our role in a community system. So my hope is really for first that positive self-image of like, I know who I am. I see myself. I see the places where I can learn and grow, and also see that everybody got things that they need to learn and grow. And like, just because I'm figuring something out and I'm 17, is folks 52 still struggling with the same thing I'm struggling with at 17. And like, that's a part of the journey. So I hope for them to be able to feel more positive about themselves. And then also knowing like, I have a specific role and I matter, and I can change the trajectory of my cousins' situations, my siblings, my friends, like the people around me, based off of how I'm treating them, based off of what I'm saying to them, based off of how we're moving together as a collective, so that they can take that and then actually just implement it in life. This is not a play. Like this, everything that I've seen, heard, listened to, I'm like, this is going to be something. Yeah. So I hope that you feel that, because I feel it just listening. Yeah. And I'm telling you, I watched that 30-second video and I have watched it at least 10 times in the past 24 hours. Because it's something about just seeing our culture seeing it in real time. Because you could tell that y'all were just enjoying each other. And it was just so like, you don't see that a lot. Yeah. It's always, this generation here, this one here. So you just, like, you guys are bringing people together in a way that I have not seen before. Yeah. And I'm super excited. Yeah. So if I'm excited, I know some other people excited. So tell us a little bit about there's a cousin in the audience and they're like, hey, I want to be a part of whatever they have coming up next. How would that person go about? Yes. By that person, I mean me. Yes. So there's so many ways of getting involved. First, if you just follow us on Instagram, so it's ASE_theater_project. We put up the announcements of things that we have. We also have a newsletter. If you sign up for our newsletter, you'll get the information on our rehearsal calendars and things like that. Because this is immersive, we can't rehearse only with ourselves. So if you want to be able to get like that behind the scene access and being able to workshop it, we are looking for people to come and be audience members as we test it out. And just getting like logistical things like, how are you feeling standing on your feet? How's this? Can you move? Could you tell that we're trying to get you to move? So, because we don't want to be explaining stuff. That's one of the, like, you're not going to be, all right, now we're going to, so it's trying to make sure that we can communicate how things is moving without over explaining. So throughout June, we'll be having rehearsals that usually happens Monday through Thursdays. We have our community days every third Tuesday. So like on June 17th, you can sign up on Eventbrite to come to, that will be the first big official rehearsal. We'll have all of the projections and the set will be made. So that will be the first group of people to go through all of the things and then being able to give us feedback. And that's like 6 to 8 on the Tuesday. If you want to help paint, if you want to help put some stuff together, if you're like, oh, I'm interested in behind the scenes, I want to learn, I want to help out in some kind of way, just get on our newsletter. We send out volunteer information, how to sign up. Message me. It's very like loosey goose on the thing of like, I try really hard to make sure there's no loopholes. Even when we started this, I was very adamant about not having auditions for it. So the people who got cast is because they came, they showed up, they were like, I'm interested, and I'm like, boom, you're in, and we're gonna make the role, we're gonna make the parts, and we did. And so it's just really a thing of, if I'm really doing community theater, there shouldn't be a lot of barriers in order to get in it if I want to participate. And then thanks to the grant through the Transformative Arts Fund, is being able to have the resources to back that up, so that it's not a thing of not being able to supply all of the parts and pieces that's required for something this big.
I just want to say, let me go ahead and sign up because I want parts.
Come on. So you can see, and then you can be like, yes, it's not trauma bonding. It's joy.
Amen. Because I'm like, we need some joy. We need some joy here. So if you could go back to, let's say, 10-year-old you who said, I love books. I want to do this. Like, what would you say to her now?
That's something that like I literally be writing to my younger self. It's the same thing that I guess like I'm saying to what I even want the kids to see and feel is that I feel like for a long time, because I was so quiet, I didn't really understand what my role was at first in my family, but I do really, really appreciate my family for never trying to tell me to change. Nobody tried to make me be as loud as them, or that like I could be a little weird, like Tichi in there playing.
All creative kids were weird. Okay,
I could not be put on punishment. I would make the glass talk to the other glass. It was no way of like really making me feel isolated. But yeah, just like the fact that I stayed committed to who I am and who I wanted to be. Regardless of what situations was, even after like having my daughter, and then life just changing and fluctuating, and I had so many people saying like how hard it's gonna be, and it is hard. It's not easy, but it's like it's always joyful, it's always fulfilling, and just staying committed to who you are is important. And I mean, I just like, look, girl, you did it, TT. That's it. Like, go, TT. That's what
I love that, because I'm like, you have all these dreams growing up and you just see the world, and then sometimes the world will try to shrink you. So I'm so glad that you didn't let the world shrink you, because the world needs your gifts.
Yeah, thank you.
And tell us about show day. Tell us about, do we need to get tickets? Like, how do we go about making sure that we are there?
Yes. So with the actual performance, it takes place July 10th through the 13th. So it's a weekend. We'll have shows Thursday and Friday evening, and then also 2 shows on Saturday, 1 show on Sunday. The tickets are $25 for that weekend only. So the other aspect of it is, if you're like, oh, $25, I don't know if I can do that. Come to one of the rehearsals beforehand. We're doing everything. All the technology will be up. And then we'll have that core weekend of us doing the shows and performances. And then we're also going to do a closing ceremony July 15th, which is that Tuesday after the show, to also honor the people who've been in the show. But we'll do that on the set with everybody who also sign up and participate. And the 15th will also be a free event. So it's just the July 10th through the 13th is $25. Yeah, and you'll be able to get those tickets. We're gonna be sharing that ticketing information on the website and also on our Instagram and Facebook pages.
Get it out there, because I'm telling all my peoples, y'all.
Yes, because it's something that I'm working on. Because I'm like, even the thing of like sharing what you're doing and being so deep in the process is really difficult for me. And just like, it's so much stuff, and I'm like, how much am I revealing? How much do I want to save? How much do I wait? What about this? But we're also in a time where everybody like, well, what is it? And needed more information. But yeah, just want everybody, whoever can show up. I'm sure the ticket's gonna go fast, because only 52 people can go through at a time. Just so with spacing, so it's not a big old group, because we want to be able to keep things intimate throughout the piece as well.
Okay, that makes sense. So with you all creating that intimacy, creating that immersive experience, how do you think that is going to play into how people move forward with their storytelling?
That's what I'm hoping we start exploring more things. So even after this project, what I would hope is to be able to work with more communities and taking on these stories and adding them and making it where each time it's this different way, maybe being able to also start highlighting other people just telling very specific stories. And theater is nothing but storytelling with tools. Right. So Yeah, it's just a thing of wanting to see what will storytelling evolve into in Cleveland, because we just a little bit behind, y'all. Just a little bit, because there's some other places that's getting there. So now I'm just hoping that this is also pushing us forward in a way, because there's a lot of valuable, beautiful stories that's in this city. It's a lot of stories of people overcoming things. It's a lot of stories of talent. It's a lot of stories of love, of people supporting and looking out. Like, it's a lot of amazing stories in this city that we don't hear a lot, and that we don't get to like interact with and feel like it's like wrapping us in our arm, in its arms. So that's what my dream is, for this to evolve and become over time.
Oh my God, I can't wait till July. But I have to ask this because I see the value in listening to elders. And it took me to become well over 30 to really be able to say, because it used to be, I don't want to hear them old people and them old stories. But so was there any story that you heard in particular that something just clicked for you or shifted you in a way?
It was a lot. It was quite a few. So one was a story of an older woman describing her first time going to public housing, and how the high rises was, and how when she was about 6 walking in, and like everybody was like on the banisters and looking, and just like a feeling of like feeling trapped and surrounded, but then also having memories of like one night the lights or something happened, and then somebody brought out their speakers and taught everybody in the projects how to do the Thriller dance. And she was like,
Now that is hilarious.
yeah, she was like, everybody was outside, and like these moments of like random acts of joy and celebration, like, and then next thing you know, everybody was like learning Thriller, and we in the middle of the project doing the Thriller dance. And then it has been a lot of like heavy stories too, because that was like the first thing I go. But even with the heavy stories, it's things happen and things occur, and then they always talk about somebody who comes in and help, like being able to kind of collapse into the arms of somebody, or even like you kind of having this breakdown, and then it's somebody saying something like, girl, get your hair together and like let me fix it. We've then had stories about like people massaging your scalp and really getting that thing. Yeah.
Wait, my scalp pink. I was like, oh.
Like when you really getting your scalp massage, and just like who you allow in your hair. The moments of like you getting your hair done, you like, okay, then you look in the mirror like, girl,
You played it right.
So like we did a lot of stories of like the mirror, like what happens in the mirror when you feeling good, like, girl, can't nobody tell me nothing. And then too, from the elders especially, that transitions to from like your things changing, losing hair, not feeling the same, but then how you still like, oh well, I'ma brush this back, throw something on it, and I'm about to step out and like still hold on to that feeling of knowing like I know who I am. I know how I am on the inside, and that's all that matters. That's what's gonna lead us out.
Listen, Ashe. Okay?
Yes, Ashe.
Because I am so excited. I'm so grateful I was able to sit down and have this conversation with you. And please let people know how they can support you even after this show. How can they support the production?
Yes, so Ashe Theater Project, we do have community programming. We will be able to continue doing programming throughout the winter as well and on. So if you have a community organization that you would love for us to do, we have pop-up telephone booths too, where people can leave their story on the telephone, which
I still know my mama's number, y'all.
And it's been so cute because this one little kid, they was like, "What is this?"
It's so funny because they like,
They
How
didn't
does
even
it
know
work?
how to hold it.
No, they don't.
Yes. And so it's just been so interesting. So we have all these things that we can go out to different events to be able to do pop-ups. We'll also be at JAPO Juneteenth event, which will be June 14th. It's a Saturday. They are taking over all of Kane Park. JAPO is also working with us. June 9th, we're doing a big family film day. That information will also be on our page and also in our newsletter. Actually, send that out. That's why I keep it on my computer.
Well, set the down. Enjoy the moment. Live in the moment. I gotta ask you one last question before we get out of here. What is one core memory that got unlocked during this process?
So, and it actually made me call my cousin. So when I was younger, I had a cousin that rapped all the time, and like, you know, he was and being at the table. So it was really the memories of like watching him, listening to him rap, listening to him getting in trouble for how much he was rapping and mumbling and doing all the things, and also realizing.
Sorry. What the? Listen to him rap and get in trouble.
Right.
My iPhone just was like.
But then also realizing that he was like my first exposure to like poetry and people writing, and then how like me playing and freestyling sometimes with him like start opening up different things, because we do freestyle sometimes in art. It's not always good, but
It don't have to be.
right, it'd be fun. And you will have the invitation to freestyle in the piece at different points. So that's kind of even why it's like it's a whole moment about them, my cousins, and that's all thanks to my cousin Leon. And then I called him, and I called him and I told him how I was making that connection, and I was like, and I don't ever think I ever told you that you inspired me.
Mm-hmm.
And it became like a very heartfelt conversation, because he was like, I never thought, because now he's looking at me like, you're the artist, you're the one. Because I asked him, I'm like, do you still write? And he was like, I haven't wrote in years and years and years. So I was like, don't you want to come out and possibly do? So he did come to one of the sessions too and graced us with his presence. He didn't do his raps like he feel, because he was a little rusty. But it did give the reminder too of how important it is to tell people things while you still can, and like what a blessing it was to still be able to call him and tell him that and make sure that he knows that, and then he was able to tell me a lot of things, and we hadn't talked like that in a long time. So it's just it's making me really look around at my family too and wonder like how much have I said to each of y'all, and doing the work of now I gotta say stuff.
Yeah, and say it often.
Yes,
Because life is short.
yeah.
So I just want to say in advance, congratulations for what's about to happen, because this thing is gonna take us somewhere. I feel it about
Thank you.
I'm like, well, I guess I'm coming to dance, y'all. So when we get ready to close out, Portals of Knowing, how did you even get that title?
Really just thinking of when people walk through what is the information that I want them to take back, and also how the portal of knowing is really ourselves. Everything is in our body. And that's why we don't give a lot of direction, because a lot of the stuff is going to be intuitive. And we've been testing it out and it works every time. So that's also like a beautiful thing of seeing like it really is our bodies is the portal of knowing.
Y'all heard it. And make sure you check it out. Make sure you are following, subscribe to the newsletter. Leticia, thank you so much for sitting down and having this conversation.
Enjoyed you. Thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed myself. The rain don't stop nothing over here, y'all.
Yes. Right.
So make sure that you are getting involved. Make sure newsletters, tickets, promoting it to your friends. Bring your cousin, bring your mama and them. The ASE Theater Project. Portals of Knowing is coming, you guys, this July. So make sure that you are in attendance somewhere, because there's so many things to be a part of. So make sure that you are somewhere. Okay?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Lovely.